3. Welcome to the 16th episode of the 792 Florida Sports Podcast. I'm Hunter Williams, and I'm joined by Brennan Johnson from Johnson Sports. Welcome back.
It's good to be back, Hunter.
You mentioned before we went on the air that you wanted to bring up the middle school results from up here in Duval County. The floor is yours.
All right. I know I haven't been here the last few weeks. I've had a lot of stuff come up. But from a few weeks ago, one of the topics was the Duval County Middle School Football Championship, where the Maynard Middle Hawks defeated the Joseph Stillwell Patriots in a very close game. I think both teams scored under 20 points each. I think that was the final score, and Maynard Middle came out with a big dub. And funny thing was, that's actually where I went to middle school at growing up, so I was very proud to hear about that. And also, which the controversy has died down, but something about Ribault Middle, who won the North Division, they couldn't be in the playoffs because of an ineligible player, I heard. And it just stirred up a lot of tension in the Duval County area, and they ended up losing, and they had to realign the playoff bracket for the division winners.
Wow, is that normally something common that happens with there being eligible players at Ribault or any middle school up there in general, or is this like kind of a rare occurrence?
I think this happened, a few years ago before from other middle schools. I couldn't remember where. I thought I heard that it happened at Matthew Gilbert Middle once, and I think it happened at to a school on the west side. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but there was like a controversy like this a few years ago that had the same issue.
Wow. And definitely congratulations to Mandarin Middle for that winning the middle school championship. So, are the Duval schools are they allowed to play any out of county teams, or is it basically restricted just to playing inner city teams?
I don't know the exact rules, but I remember when I was going there at the time that they would only play schools in the county. So I thought it was just only a county thing, but I believe maybe a school like Baldwin Middle, maybe they play teams outside of the county, like maybe out in Baker or Bradford or something like that. I'm not sure the exact rules, but I think majority of the teams here, I believe, they all play in the county only.
I knew that the private schools were allowed to. I just wasn't sure if I assumed that at this point that the publics are basically restricted to playing only Duval County teams, which it's kind of a shame because I know there's probably some teams on the outside of the county that need games that would probably play any of the Duval schools in a heartbeat just to fill their schedule.
It's possible. If that is allowed for sure, then that would be nice to see some of those schools go out. Play out teams out in St. John's or Clay County or even Columbia and Baker, any of those schools. I mean, that would be really nice, and take a nice trip out there.
Well, that's actually what I was thinking myself, is because I know that Columbia, they've had, Lake City Middle, once they merged the two middle schools, they've had a lot of trouble finding games because no one, locally will play them.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That Lake City Middle School team I heard is freaking killer. They beat teams really good.
One of these days, I may have to just go out there and just watch one of their games, because I really haven't watched them since I was in high school. And that was, of course, they didn't merge the schools until I think probably the summer that I was graduating, so I haven't actually seen them play since they merged the two schools.
Yeah, I had no idea about that at all. I haven't paid attention enough to any of that, but because I know the only thing I know is that Columbia and Fort White are the only two high schools out there, and I didn't know they had to merge back to one middle school out there for sports and whatnot.
Well, Fort White still exists. It was Richardson and Lake City Middle that merged. I keep trying to say medical. I don't know why. Anyways, we'll go ahead and hit on to some of the results from last week's regional finals. Florida High knocked off Pensacola Catholic in a tie one, 21-20. Baker knocked off Vernon 21-20 as well. Bluntstown 27-21 over Taylor County. Escambia 39 over Lee 13. I did watch a bit of this game, and I will say, like, overall, I pretty much got what I expected. Even though I didn't do a podcast last week, I did plan on having Escambia picked by 21. So I guess I would say I wasn't too far off on this pick. I did feel at the end of the day, from what I had heard about Escambia and the little bit I watched of them, I knew they were going to be a very tough test, and especially basically 5-hour ride from Jacksonville to Pensacola. I feared that was the type of game that was going to lean heavy in Escambia's favor.
Yeah, I knew for sure that was going to be a long trip in general. I mean, you're going across the Bend, the Panhandle. That's a very long trip out to Pensacola, and I'm sure those guys are going to be tired from maybe on the way there. And I know Lee came prepared, but that Escambia team this year has been, I mean, they're undefeated. They're just a very, very good football team, and I would not be surprised if they win their semifinal game tonight and go out into the state championship for 6A. They'll probably play on Miami Central most likely if that was to happen.
We'll definitely get into that game a little bit later as well. Bowles 16-6 over Bradford. I honestly was a little surprised this game was as close as it was, but I guess Bradford's record is a little deceiving because they play a tough schedule.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about going to that game last week actually to go check that out. And Bowles was the number one seed in the region, and Bradford was number 6. So Bradford's had I would say a really good year, and props to the coach and those players out there for putting up with all of that and making it that far. I mean, it's not every day where you go to the playoffs and you're like the bottom seed for your region and you make it that far into the playoffs, and Bradford did just that too.
UC knocked off Maclay 35-28. Edgewater knocked off Niceville 28-20. Wakulla 28-0 over Godby. Madison 49-0 over Union County. Steinbrenner was the second upset in a row as they knocked off Sarasota Riverview the week before, and then they knocked off Osceola 29-22 last week to put themselves with their first regional title in school history, and they'll be playing at Popka this week.
That's going to be a big game.
Jones 37-14 over Vanguard. Tampa Gaither 41-7 over Lake Minola. Armwood knocking off the number 1 team in the state 23-10 over Lakeland.
Oh yeah, that game was a big deal. That was a sellout crowd too. That was probably the biggest talked about game in the whole state right there. I mean, 2 teams from the Tampa Lakeland area, very strong, and Armwood moving up to 7A. I mean, that's what made 7A a lot stronger this year of a class compared to the last 2 seasons.
I wouldn't say really like terrible, but it was kind of like limited at the top, and between basically last year was Lakeland, Aquinas, and then it was probably a big drop to the next team. But 7A's top really got stronger this year.
Yeah, it's possible we might see an Armwood St. Thomas Aquinas matchup this year.
Well, I definitely could see that, and we'll definitely get into that game, potential game later on. Tampa Jesuit knocked off undefeated Lake Wales 53-21. Jesuit will play Miami Northwestern this week. Victory Christian 35-0 over Foundation Academy to advance to the semifinals. Apopka 20-0 over undefeated 1 seed Sanford Seminole. Clearwater Central Catholic 35-28 as they went on the road to knock off Bishop Verrat. Venice gets a little payback from the regular season as they get the rematch win over Manatee 34-17. Cocoa knocked off South Sumter 31-23. Palmetto crushes Charlotte 62-15. Lakewood 29-7 over Tampa Catholic. Seffner Christian 40-19 over Admiral Farragut. Lakeland Christian 24-20 over First Academy Orlando. Pahokee had a battle with Chiefland 32-27. Columbus knocked off Western 36-21. They'll face Deerfield Beach, who knocked off undefeated Vero Beach 35-7. Aquinas 27-0 over Atlantic. Miami Central 35-0 over Dillard. Northwestern 23-20 over American Heritage. Booker T 31-21 over Cardinal Gibbons. Chaminade 35-0 over Calvary Christian. And Chopnot Catholic 42-0 over Moore-Haven. So it was a lot of blowouts, and there was also some pretty good games overall, but Final Four should present us with a lot of good matchups. And speaking of which, we'll go ahead and start in 1A, Bluntstown versus Baker. I like Bluntstown by 14 in what will be a Week 11 rematch.
That will be a very good game, too. Baker's always been pretty strong, and Blountstown, they've been proving how great they are this year. So I'm actually going to go with Blountstown by 7.
All right. Madison Pahokee. I've got a feeling this one will, even though I think Pahokee is a solid team year in, year out, I'm thinking Madison at home by 24 in this one.
And this one's also going to be a good game. Pahokee's, they have so much talent. I mean, down there in the Glades, them and their rival Glades Central, they've always had a lot of good talent. And Madison County, they're strong, very strong as usual. I'm going to have to go with Madison County by 14.
All right. UC versus Victory Christian. This is one of the two remaining Northeast Florida teams. I like Victory Christian from Lakeland getting a 3-point win here.
This one's going to be very tough for me because University Christian, I mean, they had a weird season last year. That wasn't like them. But this year, they've been dominating like some of these private schools. They've made it this far. They're playing against a 2A powerhouse Victory Christian, which always does a pretty good job. I'm going to have to go against you and say I got University Christian winning by 14.
All right. Seffner Christian versus Chopnot Catholic. I see that Seffner has been putting up a lot of points in some of their games, but I don't feel like they've faced a team yet at the level of Chopnot Catholic. I'm going to say Chopnot Catholic by 21.
I'm going to go with Chopnot Catholic by 17. I'm going to go with that.
All right. Florida High versus Lakeland Christian. Lakeland Christian done so good so far, undefeated. Florida High's only loss was to Madison. But I have a good feeling that Florida High will break through this year after being so close in the last few years. I like them by 7 here to advance to the 3A finals.
I was also going to pick Florida High by 14, and Florida's pretty strong too. I believe they also have another nickname. I think they're called the Florida State School or whatever. I think because they're related to Florida State University.
FSU school.
They've had a very strong team this year, and I can see them going to 3A state titles. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Clearwater Central Catholic versus Chaminade Madonna. I know a lot of people in the state are definitely picking Chaminade. I'm actually going to take an upset here and take Clearwater Central Catholic by 3. I just feel like they've been getting so close to making that next step. Chaminade, even though they seem to have righted the ship a bit, I still feel like there are some question marks with this team right now. So, yeah, I'm going to take the upset.
I can agree with you on that. Chaminade's been... You just don't know with this team, but I think they'll go back to state this year and win, and they'll win by 14.
All right, Cocoa versus Bowles in the other Northeast Florida game, and I was thinking about this earlier in the week, and I'm going to stick with what I was going with. I'm thinking both Northeast Florida teams fall this week, as I'm taking Cocoa by 4.
This one's a very tough pick because Bulls, they're getting back to being a top school in football, and they're going against Cocoa, which they've been making it very far in the playoffs the last few years. And I know you've seen it, that they lost to Reigns the last 2 years, and now they're going to be playing against one of the other best teams from the Jacksonville area, Bulls. I'm actually going to go with Bulls by 3 in a very close game against them.
in addition to what you said, they're going deep.